Welcome to Mai Shu, a large island to the north of the central continent of Deffelheim, roughly 28,000 miles across and half as tall. A fractured nation full of warring territories and city-states. Nominally whole and united under the rule of the imperial shogunate of Yotohune Shimada, the disparate regions erupted into fighting and secession several centuries ago, during the weak rule of Emperor Yotohune's grandfather, Takehiro Boruki. The Shimada's rule ever since has rarely reached past the imperial palace's capital province of Bahane. Currently, the three provinces to the northwest of the capital, Matsubutsu, the Hayakawa Tetrarchy, and the Nis Principality, have sworn allegiance to the Shimada shogunate, though the alliance is tenuous at best and loyalties are an ever-changing political quagmire. The rest of the island's 16 provinces to the east have coalesced into a collection of independent tribes, confederations, city-states, and kingdoms. These provinces hold allegiance only to themselves, and alliances between individual provinces are formed as quickly as they are broken. To live in Mai Shu is to live in a region full of near-constant skirmishes, violence, and political strife. Though all-out war between the provinces is rare, border clashes are common, and roving bands of soldiers and deserters are common throughout the region, especially in the large region near the center of the island known as the Free Marches. Here, no province holds sway, though most attempt to exert some form of influence. In the Free Marches, the relative peace of the country falls apart, and open war between any and all that set foot in the region is the normalcy of day-to-day life. Situated far north of the equator, Mai Shu is lucky to be a hotbed of geothermal activity, with volcanoes, hot springs, and thermal vents commonplace. Many of the larger settlements are built near these features, as though summers are generally warm and there is a healthy growing season, winters tend to be brutally cold. Much of the continent is covered by coniferous forests and swamplands in the north, temperate forests in the central highlands, and coastal flats along the southern shoreland. Though most of the island has soil suitable for farming, winter often comes early, so hardy rice and fen mai are preferred crops over wheat or barley. Mai Shu is populated by a vast mixture of intelligent races. Though it is the smallest continent on Fenrei, it is still the largest island on the plain, leaving room for a varied number of distinct cultures and communities. Though all are descendants of shogunate rule, since the fracturing of the nation, cultures, and even governments have evolved rapidly. Though the imperial shogunate are Asimir, and whose blood is proof of their divine parentage, the most common races found in Mai Shu are humans, Korobokuri, gnomes, and the rat-like Nezumi. Significant enclaves of orcs, gnolls, goblinkin, Shu-Oni, and Vanara are also present. Most of the other intelligent races of Fenrei are also present, but lack the numbers to form anything rivaling the strong communities of the others. Only elves are completely unrepresented, and the sight of one often turns heads among the local populace. Bahane is the capital province of Mai Shu and the seat of the imperial shogunate. Boasting a large and easily defensible natural harbor with several large trade ports, it serves as the economic heart of the continent. Though smaller ports exist in the Rotland Confederacy and the Nunar Principality, no single province can rival Bahane's wealth and access to imported resources and technology. Though every province has ample access to fen mai except for the swampland of Verdund and the Solness Duchy, only Bahane has been able to leverage the incredible powers of the crop in order to make significant exports to Deffelheim. Bahane is the second most populous region of Mai Shu, and the capital city of Danshu boasts over 200,000 citizens within its towering spire. Being the center of the shogunate, Danshu is also the holy city of the imperial faith, the belief that the emperor is divine and rules with the mandate of the heavens. Situated to the south of Bahane, the Ulbuzan Wildlands is a 8,000 square mile dense forest that is sparsely populated. An enclave of druids makes the region's single accessible port of Utoyawawa their home. The wildlands are nominally under the control of the imperial shogunate, but nobody, even the druids, truly rule the vast forest. Matsubetsu is the largest of the imperial allied city-states in the northwest of the country, and is home to the most plentiful farmland on the continent. This means it has a rich stockpile of fen mai, though it relies heavily on the capital to export its riches, which is the main reason for its compliance to imperial law. The Hayakawa Tetrarchy is a mountainous region that is sparsely populated outside of its large mountainous cities. This region is populated almost entirely by Vanara, and their race is ruled by its elder council. The Tetrarchy nominally splits governance of the region with the imperial shogunate, though most of the regions ceded to the imperial rule are the sparsely populated lowlands. The Principality of Nesmuri is home to the imperial branch family of the Saikawas. Sharing common ancestry with the Shimada shogunate, it is an open secret that the Sayakawas lust after the throne. But the province's lack of land resources and its uncommonly cold climate mean the region is militarily weak and lacks defensible terrain, meaning they cannot press this claim, and must swear fealty to the main family. The flock theocracy is the single example of a foreign religion holding sway over an entire region of Mai Shu. Though all on Mai Shu recognize that there are many gods, even those of the imperial cult, foreign gods rarely see the reverence that Irori does in Flock. A small region, measuring only 60 miles across at its widest point, Flock is home only to its capital city of Kizun, a few outlying villages, and the trade post town of Hokue. All who live within Flock are dedicated, at least nominally, to the veneration of Irori. Though all followers of Irori are not evangelical, they are militant and aggressive in defending their own territory, an important factor for a country surrounded on three sides by the Free Marches. The Free Marches are a vast and densely populated region taking up the central highlands of the continent. Covering over 640,000 square miles, the Free Marches are the largest region of Mai Shu. However, they are also rife with conflict. Home to the largest source of fresh water on the island, in the Great Lake of Ubuki, the region is bountiful in natural resources and fertile soil. The lack of a viable port or major city within the Free Marches, however, have made it the hunting grounds for almost every other region. Every province wants a piece of the immense wealth that the region has to offer, but this greed has turned the vast untamed wilderness into an enormous battlefield, where armies clash and bands of deserters and roving marauders frequently sack entire towns and villages. Despite this, the Free Marches is highly populated, full of a vast number of villages and towns, and covered in farmland. Should the fighting ever stop for any reasonable amount of time, a unified Free March could rival any of the other provinces, even the capital in Bahrain. Surrounded on all sides by the Free Marches, the Neth Protectorate is the single stable part of the entire region. Consisting of only the single city of Bendamatsu, it looks nearly indefensible, but the daimyo of Neth has claimed neutrality to all the other provinces, and the city serves as the single trade post in the region that can be visited by all sides. The daimyo enforces his neutrality with a standing army of over 1,000 samurai, and will quickly expel any group or army that is bold enough to try to disturb the peace of the province. The Hashi shogunate is the home of the daimyo Hashi and her family. Only 5 years ago, the Hashi lands were a bickering part of the Free Marches, until they were united by force under the banner of the young woman named Haruna Hashi. Hashi has proclaimed herself the Empress of Mai Shu and stands in direct opposition of Bahrain and the Shimada shogunate. Having made a non-aggression pact with her neighboring province of Beidai, Hashi has made frequent raids into the Free Marches and gathers more territory to her name each spring. The clans of Beidai are united under the daimyo Takebo. Takebo has held sway over the region for almost 4 decades now, and though he is advancing in age, the clan seems united under his son and presumable heir, Takeburi. Warlike and wise in the ways of conflict, the Beidai commonly hire themselves out as mercenaries, and are well known for following through on contracts, even if it means their utter defeat. For this reason, their services are highly prized and quite costly. The Theocracy of Laufu is a theocracy only in name. Its ruler, the Pontiff of Negligence, has purposely wrought the region into a cesspit of depravity and lawlessness. Though the Free Marches are lawless, only Laufu is home to the warbands and chattel pits that dot the region. The orc and goblinkin that make this place their home are more bestial and warlike than even the most common stereotypes about their races, and there are rumors that the pontiff is in possession of some ancient, unearthed power that has further led the region into its depravity. The United Provinces of Sincheon agree on only one thing: they will not be ruled by the imperial shogunate. Other than this one point of unity, the region is predominantly made up of squabbling robber barons, independent villages, and nomadic bands of traders. Though any time the collective sovereignty of the region is threatened, these internal arguments quickly give way to a united military front. Though once the crisis is over, the status quo is quickly returned to. The Rotland Confederacy is home to the largest concentration of Nezumi, sometimes known as ratfolk, on the continent. The bustling warrens and cities of the Confederacy are home to over 2 million Nezumi and their varied households and clans, though almost a million more people of various other races call the region home. Independent even when Mai Shu was united under the original imperial shogunate, the Nezumi have held an oft-broken peace with their surrounding regions. The Confederacy is quick to take offense at the smallest slight, but just as quick to forgive, as long as their trade caravans are given preferential treatment. As one of the few regions not suitable for growing Fen Mai, the Confederacy is one of the few technologically starved regions of Mai Shu, and the common spires, factories, and war engines of the other provinces are almost completely absent from the region. This is made up for, however, by the Confederacy's vast wealth in almost every other area, and their monopoly over the silver mines in the Glittering Mountains. The capital city of Crick holds the only mint in the entire country, and is the source for much of the coinage used throughout. The Nunar Principality is home to the largest non-imperial controlled trading port on the continent. This, coupled with the region's shared border with the Rutland Confederacy, makes it the jewel of the eastern portion of the island. This merchant republic is known for its vast foundries and is the sole producer of the rare and expensive airship. This gives their merchant and military fleets unparalleled access to the skies and complete dominion over their own territory. The Shathar Marshes are a small independent region between the Rutland Confederacy and Nunar. This small region, only 30 miles across, serves as a buffer zone and an area of economic free trade between the two provinces. Nominally independent, its single city of Asagata is controlled by a merchant caste, most of which have deep ties in one or both of the bordering regions. The Kingdom of Severia is home to the industrial heartland of the eastern half of the island. Though lacking defensible borders except for the Glittering Mountains to the southwest, the incredible industrial might of the region enables the kingdom to raise vast numbers of war engines, making any attack on the region fraught with danger, though many still try to access the region's bountiful wealth and factories. To the north, the Diocese of Durporia was once under the control of the Laufu hierarchy, but declared independence from its debauchery 3 decades ago. With most of the region's economy devoted to staving off the barbarian hordes from the west, they are relatively absent from the political theater of the island. The swampland of Ferund is a large and vast mire populated only by the deranged or the incredibly brave and stubborn. Those seeking independence from the greater powers and not wanting the constant warfare of the free marches invariably end up in one of the numerous small hamlets in the swamplands. A region united only by lines drawn on a map, it is entirely without leadership, and cooperation from village to village is nearly non-existent. The Duchy of Casland is a small region to the south of the swamplands of Verdund that is controlled by the royal house of Wayland. The region was forcefully conquered a century ago by the exiled heirs of Wayland, fleeing from a war down south in Defelheim. The only province occupied by a majority of foreigners, this is the only place that openly accepts the worship of any deity, though this tolerance comes at the price of stringent laws and regulations, and even harsher punishments for breaking them. The Solness Duchy has been covered in a dense, impassable fog for the last 5 decades. None who enter the fog have ever returned, though occasionally deep guttural cries or the blaring of what sounds like immense trumpets or horns can be heard echoing deep within. The player characters have been freed from a sentence of execution in Mai Shu, the large island to the north of the main continent of Defelheim, a fractured and decentralized nation of warring city-states and hopeful shogunate daimyo that spans several thousand kilometers This nation is known for being the only place in the world that has soil that can grow fen mai, a mysterious rice-like crop that can, when refined alchemically with sulfur, produce tremendous heat. This has sparked industry and mechanisms never before seen. On the Emperor's orders, the party is to set up an outpost in the middle of Neth, the only free region in the middle of the Free Marches, an area devastated by war and conflict that is ripe for growing fen mai. The Emperor seeks to revitalize his family's name and regain control of Mai Shu, starting with this area. The campaign will be level 7 characters with no arcane classes, kineticists, mesmerists, or paladins. All other divine and occult classes are allowed, though if you go a caster, please talk to the DM so we can get the lore straight to fit you into the world properly. You are limited at level 7 to 0 magical items, as we are starting a low fantasy campaign, but I will be giving each of you a minor magical item that is custom to your character's backstories and will complement your character to make sure power is not lost. Additionally, power relative to the enemies in low fantasy worlds will be taken into account, so you should not feel weaker than your level should make you feel, compared to what you normally are. We're going to have a few mechanical changes in our games. First off, magical healing only heals lethal damage, not non-lethal damage or status effects. This means if your character is bleeding, casting Cure Light Wounds will not stop the bleeding, although it will heal the damage. GP is not present in the game. Platinum pieces are replaced by fen mai, though it doubles as a resource and not just currency. The main currency is barter or silver pieces in this campaign. Finjutsu, steampunk tech in this game, is powered by fen mai, and each character may choose to replace one body part with a Finjutsu device. If they do so, they may increase one attribute that most accurately confers to said body part by 2, such as a Finjutsu hand giving +2 to dexterity. However, they must keep it powered with 1 fen mai a day, and if unpowered, they lose the bonus and actually take a -2 penalty. If a player chooses not to do so, they may instead have a Finjutsu emergency device that, if they feed it 20 fen mai, will allow 1 reroll of any die rolled by that player once per session. All core races, standard races, as well as Kitsune, Shu Oni, which is reskinned tieflings, and Warforged are allowed. All other races need DM approval. Any player may make a vow of dedication. This means that their character may not multi-class throughout the entire campaign. However, if they make this vow, they gain a determinate item based on their backstory, such as an additional minor magical item. We're also going to have a distinction between foreigner characters and natives. If you're a native character to Mai Shu, regardless of race, you are naturally hardy in this harsh land, but also used to what it contains. Your character will get a +2 to AC and Fortitude saves. However, you will also suffer a -2 to will saves. You recover from status effects and injuries at double the normal speed if you pass a heal check successfully, and you may treat heal as a class skill regardless of actual class. You receive a bonus combat feat. If your character is a foreigner, regardless of race yet again, you're more rare and therefore naturally stand out among the Mai Shu natives. To reflect this, you get a +2 to Charisma and a +2 to Diplomacy, Intimidate, and Bluff checks. However, you suffer a -2 Fortitude save for not being quite used to the climate. You receive a bonus non-combat feat.